guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in again. If it's your first time tuning in, please don't forget to subscribe and to hit the notification button so that you don't miss some really awesome content that I'm going to be sharing on this channel. And if you're already a subscriber, I just want to say thank you so much for your support. Thank you for always tuning in again, and please don't forget to leave your comments. Guys, I really like to to just know what your thoughts are, what's your take, what's your view, because I like sharing what I'm learning and what I'm discovering and what I feel like maybe the Holy Spirit is challenging me with. But I really love to hear what's your take, what's your view, and what can you bring to the discussion. So today I wanted to talk about prayer. So there's a huge misconception that, especially among even us as Christians, that some people think prayer is only meant to be done by certain people. In fact, I'm sure there are people who actually think prayer is a spiritual gift, that only certain people are gifted in an area. I used to be one of those people. I honestly used to think, intercession, standing in the gap, praying for myself and for other people is only for certain type of people who really love it, But that could not be further from the truth. Prayer is for all of us. We have all been called to pray. In fact, prayer is one of the primary ways we get in touch with God. We keep connected to God. It's the primary way we actually communicate with God. And if we are going to build a relationship with God, we have to do that through prayer, through speaking to Him. And so prayer is actually for every believer. It's not just for a certain group of people. In fact, because of the finished works of the cross, because of what Jesus Christ accomplished on the cross, in the New Testament, we are now called the high priests. It's not like in the Old Testament where, the high priests were the only ones who could go into the holies of holy and offer sacrifices before doing that, so that they can come into the presence of God. In the New Testament, however, because the veil was torn from top to bottom, we are all actually being called to be high priests, and what do high priests do? They stand in the gap and intercede for people, they pray for people. So God actually wants us to pray for each other, not even just pray for ourselves, but to be able to pray for one another, to strengthen each other, to intercede for one another. And I'm sure many of us can really testify of how because of someone else's prayers, we are here, we are still standing, we are still living, we are still going strong. We've been spared from many harm and unfortunate situations, because of, could be even our grandmother's prayer, our grandfather's prayer, could be our mom's prayer or father, could be a sister, could be an aunt, could be a friend, or etc. But my point is, some of us are really still standing because someone else prayed, and so God really wants us to be able to pray for each other. And there are many examples in the Bible of where some people were spared from God's wrath and anger because someone prayed. If we look at in the book of Genesis, if we look at Abraham he's been actually called a friend of God. He was standing right with God, and because of him, his nephew Lot, got spared. Lot decided to go and live in Sodom and Gomorrah. And Sodom and Gomorrah, I'm sure most of us know about the story, where it was this city that was just so, there was just so much lawlessness and sin. And God was like, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm going to destroy this land. But because Abraham was a friend of God, God was like, listen, I'm going to let my friend in on a secret. And because Abraham knew what God was about to do, he prayed. And he stood in the gap for his nephew. And although Lot lost everything, we all know, I'm sure some of us know about the story. It's in the book of Genesis. Lot lost everything. He lost everything that he went for. Sometimes we tend to neglect God and we tend to go about our lives, to satisfy ourselves. But God said in His word, seek first my kingdom and my righteousness, and then all these things will be added to you. So all the things that he went for, all the things that he prioritized before God, he ended up losing. And on top of that, he ended up, committing an incest with his daughter. Like, it was such a long story, but my point is, he was spared from destruction because of his uncle Abraham. Once again, in the book of Exodus, Moses had to stand in the gap and intercede for the children of Israel so that God would not destroy them. When Moses went to the mountain to get the 10 commandments on the tablet, when he left the Israelites, he left them for a moment. They decided to ask Aaron to make a god for them so they can worship a god. Now this is just after God has taken them out of out of Egypt, out of slavery. God has performed all these miracles for them. They quickly forgot that, and they decided, you know what, we want another God who's going to go before us. God was so furious. God told Moses, listen, go back to your people and go and see what they're doing right now. And God told Moses, well, like, leave me alone so that my anger can burn, so that I can destroy these people, and I'll make a whole new nation with you. And Moses was like, no, God, please do not do this. Now, because of Moses, God did not destroy the children of Israelites. But can I also just say that the opposite is quite true? There are people who are perishing. There are people who are destroyed. There are people who lose their lives because nobody was there to stand in the gap and pray for them. I mean, we see this in the book of Ezekiel. When God was telling Jerusalem, and I think he was telling the prophet Ezekiel, he said, I looked for someone to stand in the gap and intercede on their behalf so that I will not destroy the land. And I found nobody. And because God found nobody, he destroyed the land and he poured out his wrath on them, And so I just want to remind and encourage us that prayer is actually more than a lifestyle. If we are going to live on this earth, if we are going to be determined to go through this life, we all know we live in a world where, it's a fallen world. It's dark. We are being bombarded with bad news left, right, and center. Every day there's always something, and we need to be connected to a source bigger than us, a source, stronger than us, a source, beyond us. And who else can that be other than the God who created this entire universe? And we can only do that through prayer. And so prayer is not just for a certain group of people. Prayer is for all of us, and it's not just even for us. It's for every person that is in our sphere of influence. It's for our friends, it's for our families, it's for our nation, for our country, for every area. Wherever God has placed you to influence, you ought to stand in the gap and pray for those people. And you cannot do that if you're someone who consider prayer to just be for designed for a certain group of people. Prayer is for all of us. So I just wanted to encourage you, make prayer the center of your life, because that's the primary way you are actually in touch with, this one article say it's being in touch with the headquarters, and the headquarters is the heaven. How are you gonna be in touch with the heaven if you don't pray? So that's it for me for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. See you next time. Bye.